The council chamber was silent. So silent that even the humming lights above seemed to hesitate. Rows of alien dignitaries, dressed in the ceremonial garbs of their various worlds, watched with wide, disbelieving eyes as the human took 2 steps forward. His uniform, once crisp, was stained with smoke and dust. His eyes held none of the awe or fear they had expected. No desperation, just fury, ancient, smoldering, controlled. Ambassador Elias Gray stood still for a moment, letting the silence stretch, letting them all feel it. Then, with a voice that cut sharper than any blade, he said the words that would echo across galaxies. "You invaded our home." The words weren't shouted. They didn't need to be. In that quiet voice was a billion screams, cities torn from the earth, oceans turned to ash, families incinerated in blue light they didn't understand. The chamber didn't breathe. Even the Grand Vishari Chancellor, leader of the Galactic Empire, shifted uncomfortably in his throne. One of the delegates, a thin insectoid being from the Threx Dominion, finally spoke. "Ambassador Gray, your records show that Earth was deemed uninhabited at the time of reclamation. There were no signs of sentient life remaining." Elias didn't blink. "Because you killed them before you scanned." Murmurs. Some of the more reptilian species hissed in discomfort. The Empire's protocols were strict. Annexation was not permitted on sentient worlds without formal consent. It was law, sacred law. But Earth hadn't signed any treaties. Earth, they believed, had fallen centuries ago during the collapse. "You told yourselves we were extinct," Elias continued, stepping closer to the center of the chamber, "because it made the occupation easier to stomach. You thought our satellites, our signals, our bunkers were just echoes of a dead race. But we were alive. Hidden. Waiting. Watching." "Ambassador Gray," Chancellor Rorik finally said, his 4 eyes narrowing, "we have evidence that contradicts." "You have data, Chancellor. I have bodies." Elias tapped the datapad strapped to his wrist. Instantly, the holoscreen in the center of the chamber flickered to life. What played wasn't edited or polished. It was raw footage. Children choking in fallout shelters. Soldiers fighting with sticks and stones against plasma tanks. Old men using rifles that jammed in the rain. A woman giving birth underground while explosions shook the earth above her. The footage stopped on a still image, one that no one could ignore. A single boy, maybe 10, staring up at a patrol of armored Empire troopers with eyes empty of fear. The child held nothing. No weapon, no shield. Just a red toy in his hand. A plastic car. Moments later, the car was all that remained. Elias let the silence return. He scanned the room again. Every delegate was watching him now. Not as a diplomat, not as an ambassador, but as a survivor. "You thought Earth would forget," he said softly. "You thought we'd die in the dirt and leave the stars to you. But we're still here. And now we know your names, your ships, your weaknesses. You broke our atmosphere with your pride. And we rebuilt under your nose." The Chancellor leaned forward, his tone sharp. "This chamber is for peace, Ambassador." Elias smiled. But there was no humor in it. "Then you shouldn't have started a war." The words sent another chill through the room. The meaning was clear. Humanity wasn't here to beg, not anymore. They weren't lost children crawling back to relevance. They had survived, and now they stood tall among giants, not to ask for mercy, but to demand justice. Behind Elias, the doors hissed open. 4 more humans entered. Each wore the mark of a reborn Earth alliance, the phoenix symbol rising through flame. Their presence confirmed what no one had believed possible. Earth was no longer silent. They had come not to speak, but to warn. And the galaxy was listening. The silence after Elias Gray's warning didn't last long. Whispers rippled through the chamber, like wind through tall grass. Translators struggled to keep up with the dozens of alien dialects being spoken at once. On the far side of the room, a bulky delegate from the Bractor Alliance slammed a scaled fist on the edge of his console. "You dare threaten the Council, human?" he growled, voice heavy with contempt. "Your planet was a corpse when we arrived." Elias didn't look at him. He didn't have to. Instead, it was Commander Leon Vega, one of the 4 humans who had entered behind him, who stepped forward. "We were buried, not dead," she said calmly. "And now we've risen." There was something terrifying about the simplicity in her voice. No anger, no bravado, just truth. Chilling truth. The Bractor delegate growled again, but this time he didn't speak. The others were still processing the implications of what they'd just seen. Humanity, long thought extinct, wasn't just alive. They were organized. They had leadership, infrastructure, and they had proof of war crimes, broadcast right in the middle of the most sacred political ground in the galaxy. Chancellor Rorik lifted one hand. The voices died out. "You say we invaded your home," the Chancellor said slowly, choosing his words with care. "Yet Earth never responded to our outreach. Not during the survey scans, not when we sent landers, not during the reclamation period." "We were underground," Elias said, voice steady. "And not because we were hiding from you. We were hiding from what you left behind." His words cut deeper than any accusation. A few delegates shifted uneasily. "You don't know what it was like," Elias continued. "Your empire sent machines first, drones that stripped the skies, sensors that scrambled our satellites. Then came the terraformers. They poisoned our rivers, killed our crops, and triggered storms that tore our coasts apart, all for your resource scans." Commander Vega stepped forward again. "You called it reclamation. We called it extinction." The images on the holoscreen changed again. This time they showed underground cities, massive caverns carved beneath the Earth's surface, lit by makeshift reactors, filled with thousands of people. Men, women, children, all living in shadows, growing mushrooms for food, purifying water through cracked filters. Entire generations born without ever seeing sunlight. "Those images are decades old," the insectoid Threx delegate muttered. Elias nodded. "Yes, that's how long we waited. While you patrolled our skies and declared the planet yours, we rebuilt. In silence. In darkness." There was something terrifying about that. Silence was often mistaken for weakness. But now the galaxy saw it for what it really was. Preparation. Another delegate, this one from the sleek and pale Eridani Syndicate, leaned forward. "If this is true, then what do you want? Reparations? Apologies? A seat at the table?" Elias stared at her for a long time before replying. "We want acknowledgement of what you did, of what you are." The Chancellor's expression darkened. "You speak as if the entire Council is guilty." "You all benefited," Elias said. "The metals taken from our mountains fueled your starships. The data ripped from our broken satellites built your commerce algorithms. You named our planet a relic and moved on. You all had a hand in this." Murmurs again. Accusation in every corner of the chamber now. Delegates whispered to aides, sending messages back to their homeworlds. Some were panicking, others were calculating. Chancellor Rorik steepled his long fingers. "What exactly are you here to propose, Ambassador?" Elias took a deep breath. This was the moment he had rehearsed 1,000 times in his mind. And now that it had arrived, it didn't feel like a performance. It felt like vengeance wearing a diplomat's suit. "Earth will not accept membership in your council. We will not participate in your trade routes or treaties or alliances. From this moment forward, Earth declares itself neutral and independent. Any incursion into our solar system will be treated as a declaration of war." The chamber erupted. Some delegates stood up and shouted. Others stared in disbelief. The idea of Earth, a planet still recovering from annihilation. Issuing terms to the Galactic Empire was unthinkable, but Elias wasn't done. He raised his hand, and the holoscreen changed one final time. This time it showed a fleet, not massive, not overwhelming, but unmistakably advanced. Dozens of sleek, black ships hovered above Earth's orbit, cloaked in shadow but bristling with weapons. Their design was unfamiliar to the Council, human-made, but not modeled after any old Earth tech they remembered. These weren't retrofitted space shuttles or scrapped civilian transports. These were warships, homegrown, hardened, hidden. "We've spent 50 years reverse engineering the tech you left behind," Elias said. "Your drones, your weapons, your language. We learned everything we could, and then we made it better." A sharp exhale swept the chamber. Commander Vega continued where Elias left off. "We don't need to conquer anyone, but if you come for us again, if one Imperial ship crosses our line, we will strike, and we won't stop at our orbit. We'll follow you home." The message couldn't be clearer. Humanity wasn't asking to be spared. They were warning everyone to stay away. Elias stepped back. He looked tired now. Not physically, but emotionally. Like the weight of decades underground, the screams of those lost, the burden of carrying their voices into this chamber. It had finally caught up to him. But he didn't break. The Chancellor remained silent for several moments. When he finally spoke, his voice had lost some of its earlier strength. "You've made your position clear, Ambassador. I suspect our Council will need time to review the evidence." Elias gave a tight nod. "That's fine. But don't take too long." "Is that a threat?" Elias stared at the Chancellor. "It's advice. We waited 50 years to speak. You won't get that long to respond." And with that, he turned. The 4 humans followed without a word. No handshakes, no farewells. Just the quiet click of boots against the chamber floor as they walked out the same way they had come. No one stopped them. No one dared. As the doors hissed closed behind them, the chamber sat in stunned silence. The implications of what had just occurred rippled through every mind. The humans were back. Not as refugees, but as a force no one saw coming. Outside the Council Tower, the alien capital buzzed in ways it hadn't in centuries. Broadcasts interrupted daily programs. Social networks across star systems exploded with clips from Elias Gray's speech. Reactions poured in, some calling it a hoax, others declaring it a revolution. But one thing was certain. Earth was no longer forgotten. On their diplomatic vessel orbiting the planet, Elias removed his coat and sat heavily in the command chair. The others followed suit. Leon leaned against a console, arms crossed. "Well," she said, "that went better than expected." Elias gave a dry laugh. "You mean none of them tried to kill us on the spot?" "Yeah, I'd say that's a win." Commander Rian Solis, their tech strategist, adjusted his earpiece. "Interstellar feeds are exploding. Half the galaxy is trying to figure out if we're bluffing. The other half is scared we're not." Elias looked out the viewport. In the distance, the blue swirl of Earth hovered in space. Peaceful. Quiet, but no longer helpless. "They should be scared," he said softly. Captain Nira Juno, the last of the 4, finally spoke from the shadows. "Do you think they'll come for us again?" Elias didn't answer right away. "I think the smart ones won't. The greedy ones might. But if they do, they'll find out the hard way." He turned to face them. "That humans don't forget, and we don't forgive." He stood again and walked toward the back of the ship, leaving the others in quiet reflection. Because even though the galaxy had just met the new Earth, The humans knew something no one else had realized yet. This was just the beginning. Beneath the crust of Earth, far below the soil scorched by alien machines and the bones of ancient cities, humanity had been building in silence. The tunnels of New Sol weren't just a refuge. They were a civilization born out of vengeance, hope, and raw, unrelenting will to survive. No sunlight reached this far underground. The air smelled of minerals and machinery, and the walls hummed with the power of geothermal cores. These caverns, carved with patience over decades, stretched for hundreds of miles beneath what was once the Rocky Mountains. And here, the Phoenix fleet was born. Not just the ships, but the people, the minds, the warriors. Elias Gray walked through the steel corridors of Level 12, his boots echoing softly. Children ran past him, laughing, ducking under power lines and between engineering staff. It was strange, seeing joy in a place built on pain. But that was what Earth had always done best, turn broken pieces into something new. He reached a heavy blast door guarded by 2 soldiers in dark blue armor. They saluted him and unlocked the entry. The door slid open, revealing the council chamber of New Sol. It wasn't as grand as the Galactic Empire's ivory towers. No golden pillars, no floating tech. Just a long metal table, a flickering hollow map of the Earth, and 7 seats. Only 4 were filled. General Haru Takeda, the quiet old man who once led the underground militias during the occupation years, was already reviewing fleet movements on a terminal. Beside him sat Dr. Mira Santori, head of biogenetics, the woman responsible for keeping generations alive underground when medicine had failed. Commander Leon Vega was seated too, tapping her finger restlessly on the table. And finally, Colonel Ibrahim Kessler, the youngest of the group but perhaps the most ruthless when it came to retaliation. Elias stepped inside. No one spoke immediately. Was it worth it? Kessler asked without looking up. Elias took the last seat. They listened. Kessler leaned forward. And they'll act. You know that. Let them, Vega said. If they do, we'll be ready. Haru finally looked up from his screen. His face, creased with age and memory, remained calm. Tell us everything. So Elias did. He explained how the Galactic Council reacted, how stunned they were, how they tried to shift blame, how terrified some of them looked when the Phoenix fleet footage played. He repeated the words he spoke, and the silence that followed. They weren't expecting us, he said. They still think of us as dust. That's how they made us, Dr. Santori muttered. Turned our world to ash. For a moment, no one spoke. They were all remembering, not just the videos, their memories. The first atmospheric collapses, the rolling blackouts, the ration lines that turned into riots, the years when Earth was just pain stitched into time. General Haru spoke again. Then we proceed, build the second fleet. We don't have the raw material, Kessler objected. The last mining unit in Mars Base 3 collapsed. We've drained the asteroid reserves. We'll find a way, Elias said. We always do. Haru nodded slowly. Good, because this war isn't over. It's just paused. They all knew it. The Empire wouldn't sit still. Somewhere in the stars, angry voices would call Earth a threat. Military blocks would form. Intel drones would be dispatched. Earth had shown its teeth. Now the galaxy would come to check if they were real. And if they weren't ready, they'd be torn apart. Elias left the chamber with Leon. They walked through the transport tunnels together. Passing maintenance crews and school groups, there were murals on the walls now, painted by the children of survivors. Blue skies, green forests, oceans full of color. Some of these kids had never seen any of those things outside of old vids, but they painted anyway, because they believed. That was what humanity had left. Belief. How long do we have? Leon asked quietly. Elias sighed. A few months, maybe a year. Then we need to accelerate the AI project. He paused. That's still experimental. We don't have the luxury of ethics anymore, Elias, she said. We never did. He hated that she was right. Project Siren was still in its early phases, an adaptive war AI designed to coordinate defense across multiple fronts using predictive threat modeling. But its test runs had shown unpredictable behavior, not malevolent, but cold. It didn't care about casualties. It just wanted to win. Bring it online, he said at last. She nodded. I'll inform Mira. As they turned a corner, a low hum echoed through the corridor. Workers stepped aside, clearing the path for a massive elevator platform rising from the lower levels. On it stood the half-complete hull of a Phoenix-class cruiser, still glowing with weld burns and plasma-sealed joints. The engineers called it Judgment. Will it be ready in time? Elias asked. It better be, Leon muttered. Back in orbit, on the edge of the solar system, the Phoenix fleet monitored every jump signature coming in and out of Sol's space. Nothing was left to chance anymore. Earth was surrounded by cloaked satellites, hidden defense grids, and long-range kinetic cannons disguised as lunar craters. But even so, one signal slipped through. Deep in the Oort cloud, a small ship shimmered into visibility. No ID code, no registered faction, just a single transmission on a galactic diplomatic channel. It was a message. Let us talk. Off record. Bring Gray. Location attached. No threat. No weapons. Just coordinates near Saturn. Elias stared at the message for an hour before he made his decision. You're going alone? Vega asked. I need to know what they want. It's a trap. Probably, he said. But it's my kind of trap. He took the Spectre, a single-pilot stealth shuttle, and drifted through the black between worlds. The journey was quiet, almost peaceful, like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. He reached the coordinates, and there it was, a sleek silver vessel, clearly Empire-made but bearing no symbols or faction markings, just a neutral gray hull. As he docked, he felt it, the old feeling, the one he buried during the dark years, the itch of fear. The airlock hissed. He stepped aboard. Inside, a single being waited. She was tall, thin, and ghost-pale, a Larithian, one of the Empire's most political species, elegant, manipulative, and always 2 moves ahead. Her eyes, solid white, studied him with interest. You're braver than your kind used to be, she said. We had to change, Elias replied. She gestured to a chair. Sit, we only have a few minutes. He stayed standing. Very well, she said. I'm not here on behalf of the Empire. I'm here because something far worse is coming. He frowned. You expect me to believe that? You should, because your speech woke more than politicians. She tapped a button. A screen lit up, showing a grainy image, a black void, a moving shape. Then another. Then dozens. Ships, but not like anything Elias had seen before. Not Empire, not any known race. They've been watching Earth too, she said. Long before the Empire arrived. They stayed back because they thought we'd finish the job. Now that you've survived, they're coming. Who are they? She leaned forward. The ones we fear. He stared at the screen. His voice came out dry. Why warn us? Because if they reach Earth, we all burn. The screen in front of Elias kept looping the same footage. A black void. Then the flicker of unnatural movement. Ships, if they could even be called that, moving through the darkness like shadows with purpose. No lights, no identifiers, just a ripple of something ancient and unknowable coming closer. Elias narrowed his eyes. "These aren't Empire," he said quietly. The Larithian nodded. "No. And they don't care for councils or borders. Then who the hell are they?" "They have no name," she replied, her tone softening, as if she were remembering something personal. "But some of our fringe colonies called them the Silence." Elias raised an eyebrow. Not exactly poetic. It was the last thing those colonies transmitted. Static, then silence. She stood and walked to the display, her long fingers dancing over the controls. A new image appeared. Wreckage. A station torn open from the inside, its walls melted and buckled, floating in empty space. Bodies, human, alien, indistinguishable, drifted like forgotten toys. "This was one of ours," she said. "Outpost Zephyr, a military listening post near the Rask Nebula. We lost contact 6 weeks ago. We sent recon. They didn't return." "Why are you showing me this?" Elias asked. "Because your warning to the Empire created ripples. It reached the deep networks. And whatever they are, they heard it too. They know Earth still lives." Elias stared at her. "And now you're scared." "We're past scared." He folded his arms. "So now you want our help?" "No," she said. "I want to give you a choice." She tapped a control panel, and the screen split into 2 paths. One showed the Phoenix fleet. All of Earth's known power. The rebuilt ships, cloaked satellites, kinetic weaponry. It was a vision of independence, of fire-forged resistance. The other screen showed a simulation of the Silence descending on a populated world, resistance flaring, and then dying out. Not just destroyed, but consumed, like the planet was never there at all. "You can keep your pride," she said, "and face this alone, or you can let the Empire assist." Elias laughed bitterly. "You mean the same Empire that turned our skies black and left us buried for 50 years? "Yes," she said simply, "because we're afraid, and when predators are afraid, they band together." Elias didn't respond right away. He was too busy watching the simulation. It didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a warning, one he couldn't ignore. "I'll think about it," he said. The Larithian smiled faintly. "Don't take too long." Back on Earth, the Council of New Soul gathered again, but this time the mood was colder. Tense. Everyone felt it, the way the stars had begun to shift, like something was moving out there, something that didn't belong. "They're called the Silence," Elias said, pacing in front of the council table. "No known origin, no communication, just destruction. They erase everything they touch. Stations, colonies, signals. It's not war, it's consumption." "They sound like a myth," Kessler muttered. "They aren't." Dr. Santori leaned forward. "What do they want?" Elias shook his head. "I don't think they want anything. They're not conquerors, they're cleaners. They erase traces of civilizations, like scrubbing chalk off a board." Haru's voice came low. "And Earth has drawn their attention." "Yes. Because we came back. Because we made noise." A heavy silence fell. "So what now?" Leon asked. "Do we ally with the very monsters who tried to wipe us out?" Elias hesitated. They didn't offer an alliance, just an understanding. Kessler stood abruptly. "We should be building more ships, not sitting in circles. Let them come. We'll fight like we always do." "With what?" Santori snapped. "Your fists? Our reactors are already at 92% output. We can barely sustain the first fleet, let alone another." "Then we build smarter. Faster." Elias raised his hand, silencing the argument. "Listen," he said. "I'm not saying we trust the Empire, but this is different. The Empire wanted to rule us. These things want to erase us." Leon leaned against the wall. So either we risk the Empire taking advantage again, or we fight extinction alone. That was the choice. And it was no choice at all. I say we play both sides, Elias said. Everyone turned to him. We feed the Empire just enough information to keep them interested, just enough to let them fight first. Let them bleed. And while they do, we prepare our real defense, our own way, on our terms. Haru nodded slowly. A shadow strategy. Kessler snorted. That's the kind I like. Then we'll need to accelerate Siren, Santori said. And deploy scouts, Leon added. We need to find them before they find us. Elias looked at each face in the room. These weren't politicians. They weren't diplomats. They were survivors, fighters, builders of a civilization that should have died and didn't. This is not about revenge anymore, he said. This is about the right to exist. 2 weeks later, the first contact happened. A listening post orbiting Pluto went silent at 0400 hours. The backup beacon triggered 30 seconds later. No transmissions, just a flash of static. And then, a sound. Not language, not code, just a vibration. A low, bone-deep hum that echoed across the solar relays. Engineers described it as the sound of something enormous breathing. Elias stood in the command center, listening to the playback on repeat. Around him, officers moved with grim urgency. Defense satellites repositioned, recon probes launched, but the message stayed the same. They're close. That same night, 3 scouts returned from deep space with chilling news. The stars beyond the Kuiper Belt were empty. Colonies that should have responded hadn't. Vessels that should have shown up on radar never appeared. As if pieces of space had been swallowed whole. One scout, pale and shaking, described what he saw before his ship barely made the jump back. It wasn't a ship, he said. It was a hole, a moving hole, like space was folding in around it, and inside, I swear I saw faces. He couldn't speak after that. Trauma unit took him in, but his mind stayed fractured. The silence was no longer myth. They were real, and they were near. Inside Earth's deep labs, Siren came online. The AI, still raw and barely contained, pulsed within a sphere of rotating quantum processors. It spoke with a voice not quite human and not quite mechanical, just enough to unsettle anyone in the room. Input received. Threat designation. Existential. Processing multi-front combat scenarios. Calculating probability of survival. Elias stood beside Leon, watching the interface. How bad is it? He asked. Siren answered immediately. Probability of Earth survival against silence, 17.2%. Silence in the lab. And with Empire involvement? Leon asked. Probability rises to 41.9%. Still not good, but better than 0. Then we need them, Elias said. But we don't let them lead. We make them bleed with us. The AI responded again, but this time unprompted. Recommendation. Lure silence into controlled war zones. Use Empire assets as primary shield. Preserve core Earth infrastructure at all costs. Leon frowned. That's cold. Elias nodded. That's war. They left the lab in silence. Outside, the sky above New Sol's artificial dome flickered, a simulated sunrise. Kids walked to class, workers went to shift, life went on, because that was what humanity did. It endured. But in the distance, just beyond the reach of the solar grid, the dark was watching, moving, waiting. The Empire fleet arrived in the outer rim of Sol space like a storm front. 73 ships, all fully armed, shimmering with polished hulls and deadly grace. Their formations were pristine, flawless, a statement of dominance. From orbit above Neptune to the furthest points around the heliopause. The Empire's war machines encircled Earth's territory like wolves surrounding an injured deer. But this time, the deer had grown fangs. From the safety of the Judgment's command bridge, Earth's most advanced warship, Elias Gray watched them in silence. The flagship's interior was dark, sleek, efficient. No wasted movement, no polished emblems, just survival made into steel. Commander Leon Vega stood beside him, eyes fixed on the data feed. "They're posturing," she said, "trying to show unity." "They're scared," Elias replied, "and scared people overcompensate." The Empire had sent Admiral Tharkin, a seasoned, four-limbed war tactician from the Gravi species, known for leveling 3 rebel worlds in the Orion breach. His reputation was fear, his methods, brutality. But now even he looked uncertain. "They're broadcasting a signal," Vega reported. "Open diplomatic channel." "Put it through." The Admiral's face flickered onto the main screen, gray skin stretched tightly over sharp bones, eyes like obsidian. "Human Ambassador," Tharkon began without pleasantries. "We are in position as discussed." "Then hold it," Elias said flatly. The Admiral's mouth twitched. "If these creatures are real, we will engage." "They are real," Elias snapped. "And if you charge in like it's a border skirmish, they'll rip your fleet apart." Tharkin leaned in slightly. "I don't take orders from survivors." Elias stared straight into the screen. "No, but you'll die just like one." The call ended. Vega folded her arms. "He's going to get his people killed." "Let him," Elias muttered, "as long as Earth survives the opening round." 12 hours later, the edge of Sol space darkened, not like nightfall, not like shadows. This darkness wasn't the absence of light. It was the erasure of space, a spreading black curtain that swallowed stars, dulled sensors, and silenced signals. "They're here," whispered an operator on the Judgment's bridge. Fleet sensors screamed to life, spikes in radiation, gravitational shifts, tachyon interference. It all surged at once, as if reality itself was bending. "Multiple contacts," Vega shouted. "Too fast to track." And then, like wraiths peeling out of the dark, the silence arrived. At first they looked like obsidian fragments, shard-like and angular. But as they moved, they twisted, growing, reshaping. Their ships had no engines, no lights, no visible systems. They flowed through vacuum like liquid nightmares. Admiral Tharkin's fleet opened fire without hesitation. Thousands of plasma bolts streaked through the void, turning space into a swirling inferno. Ion cannons, fusion lances, solar torpedoes. They unleashed everything. For a moment, it looked like it worked. 3 of the silent ships exploded in white-blue bursts, but then they adapted. Elias watched in horror as the remaining alien ships began to shift, changing their forms, thickening their hulls mid-flight. They weaved between weapons fire, ignoring blast pressure, bending around shields like water through cracks. And then they struck. No flashes, no missiles, just a silent collision of dark mass into hulls. Empire warships were sliced open without resistance, not blown apart, disassembled. Their hulls peeled back, vaporized at the molecular level, stripped away like paint in acid rain. One by one, ships vanished. A scream cut through the radio. "This is Valor 9. They're inside the hull. We didn't see them. They're—" Static, then silence. Within minutes, 23 ships were gone. No wreckage, no distress beacons, just nothing. On the Judgment, Earth's crew stood frozen. "Should we engage?" Vega asked quietly. Elias clenched his fists. "Not yet. They aren't targeting us." "We don't know that." "Exactly," he said. "We don't know anything about them." The Empire's formation was shattered. Ships broke ranks, retreated, fired blindly. The silence moved through the chaos like a tide, picking off the weak, avoiding the strong, and learning. Always learning. One of the Gravi carriers managed to land a sustained beam on one of the larger creatures. The thing writhed in space, then split into 3 smaller fragments, each one flying off in different directions. "They're fractal," Vega murmured. "Self-replicating. They're evolving mid-battle." "This isn't war," Elias whispered. "It's digestion." Back in New Sol, Siren watched everything. The AI's virtual interface pulsed with real-time data. Fleet losses, biological feedback, transmission breakdowns. It calculated patterns, recognized anomalies, simulated outcomes. Then, it made its first recommendation. Deploy Earth's EMP-veiled mines at Sector 7K. Trigger in sequence. Measure reaction. Record adaptation time. If resistance is low, escalate to Phobos beam array. Dr. Santori stood beside the AI chamber, jaw tight. "Are we really following its lead?" "There's no choice," said Haru Takeda from across the control room. "It's the only intelligence that can keep up." "Deploy now," Siren repeated. And they did. Across Sector 7K, thousands of stealth mines hidden in asteroid belts detonated in a precise sequence. The electromagnetic shockwaves rippled through space, slamming into 2 approaching silence crafts. For the first time, they recoiled. Not destroyed, but halted. Elias received the update on the bridge of the Judgment. Relief flashed through the crew. "They're vulnerable to electromagnetic disruption," Vega said, wide-eyed. "Which means they're bound by rules," Elias said. "Physics, systems. Even if we don't understand them, they can bleed." They watched as 2 of the creatures floated listlessly for several minutes before slowly reforming. Damaged, but not dead. Siren chimed again. "Deploy solar-lensed ultraviolet pulses in sequence. Analyze neuroreactive responses." The tests continued. Earth didn't fight openly. Not yet. They watched. They poked. They learned, while the Empire burned. On the other side of the battlefield, Admiral Tharkon's flagship, the Relentless Dawn, was surrounded. Only 5 ships remained in close formation. Tharkon's face reappeared on Elias's screen, blood streaking down his gray cheek. "You knew," he growled, breathing heavily. "You knew they couldn't be fought with brute force." "I tried to warn you." "They're pulling data from our systems," Tharkon whispered. "We thought they were just attacking, but they're copying, mimicking." "Your mistake was fighting them like they were alive," Elias said. "But they aren't." "Then what are they?" Elias looked grim. "Reminders of what the universe does to civilizations that grow too loud." Tharkon's ship shuddered violently. The screen went dark. Elias turned away. "Now we strike." The Phoenix fleet emerged from the shadows. 30 ships, smaller, sleeker than the Empire's vessels, built for hit-and-run tactics and neural-linked piloting. Each one moved like it was an extension of its commander's body. The Silence had never encountered human tech like this. Elias gave the order. "Engage! Use pattern theta! Don't get heroic! Hit! Fade! Hit again!" From the edges of the battlefield, the Earth ships darted in. Lasers fired in unpredictable spirals. EMP charges detonated on calculated timers. Mines deployed and detonated mid-chase. And it worked. For now, Silence ships fractured under pressure. One was drawn into the orbit of Neptune and destroyed in the gas giant's crushing gravity. Another was frozen when Earth's artificial satellites detonated near it, dropping its temperature to near absolute 0 in seconds. But Elias knew this wasn't victory. It was data collection. Siren confirmed it. "Hostiles adapting. Estimate 12 minutes until full compensation. Suggest fallback position. Draw hostiles toward Saturn's magnetic field." "Do it," Elias said. The trap was set. As the Phoenix ships withdrew, the Silence followed. drawn toward a sector riddled with experimental gravity wells and electromagnetic disturbances. Earth had pre-mined the entire zone. They weren't just fighting now. They were teaching the galaxy how. By the time the battle subsided, nearly half of the Empire fleet had been wiped out. Of Earth's 30 ships, 7 were lost. But the silence, they pulled back. Not destroyed, not defeated, just watching again, recalculating, waiting for the next move, and Earth, scarred but standing, had earned something that had long been denied to them. Fear. Across the galaxy, footage of Earth's precision strikes spread. Refugee colonies saw them not as victims, but as warriors, survivors, tactical geniuses. The Empire, humiliated, could no longer ignore it. And the silence, ancient and endless, now marked Earth as something new. Not prey, but competition. Beneath the moonless black of Saturn's orbit, a broken creature drifted, silent, fractured, dying but not dead. A silence vessel, or what was left of it, tumbled in slow motion, its once shifting hull locked in a frozen state. The gravity traps, the EMP pulses. The ultraviolet interference, Earth's gambit, had worked, at least this once. Now came the most dangerous part, touching the unknown. Inside the Judgment, Earth's flagship, Elias Gray stood beside Commander Leon Vega and Dr. Mira Santori in the mission operations chamber. A live feed hovered before them. 3 human soldiers floating toward the wreckage in exosuits, each tethered to a stealth dropship hidden inside Saturn's rings. "They shouldn't be this close," Vega muttered. "It could reboot any second." "That's why we sent our best," Elias replied, watching the feed with a stillness that only masked his tension. "If we want to fight them, we need to understand them." "They're not machines," Santori added. "Not in the traditional sense, but they're not alive either. This could be something completely outside what we've ever known." The lead operative, Lieutenant Kai Vora, hovered near the wreck's outer layer. His voice came through the comms, steady and sharp. "Hull's stable, no radiation. Surface feels pliable, organic but cold, like petrified flesh." "Get a sample," Elias instructed. A thin blade extended from Vora's wrist-mounted tool. He pressed it gently to the hull, and the moment it made contact, the entire wreck shuddered. "Movement!" Vega barked. No response," Kai corrected. "The vibration came from deeper in the structure, not a defense reflex, almost like memory." That word lingered in the room. Memory. Dr. Santori stepped closer to the screen. "It's not just reacting, it's remembering him." "Back out now," Elias ordered. "Negative," Kai replied. "We're going in." Vega slammed her palm on the console. "Damn it, Vora!" But it was too late. The hatch on the side of the vessel, once sealed like obsidian glass, peeled open with a low groan, like a mouth welcoming prey or welcoming home. The team entered. Inside was worse than any of them expected. Not wires, not corridors, but veins. Black, root-like structures ran through the ship like nerves through a body. The walls pulsed faintly, like it was still breathing. Screens flickered with incomprehensible static. No language, no symbols, just shapes. Circles, spirals, shifting geometries that hurt the eyes if stared at too long. Kai's voice came again, quieter now. "There are bodies." Elias tensed. "Not silence bodies. Alien. Other species. Mixed." "What the hell does that mean?" Vega asked. Kai moved his camera. The image tilted and focused. There were cocoons, like pods, built into the walls. Inside them floated corpses, a Threxian, a Larithian, even, horrifyingly, a human child. Dr. Santori gasped. "My God, they're harvesting." "No," Elias whispered. "They're studying." That changed everything. The Silence weren't just destroyers. They were observers, collectors. "Pull them out," he said. "Get them back. We need to analyze everything." Back on Earth, inside New Sol's subterranean command complex, the samples were received and isolated in the highest bio-lock chamber ever constructed. Dr. Santori led the examination personally, flanked by AI proxies and 2 hazard-suited assistants. What they found horrified them. The Silence's exterior wasn't armor. It was skin. Synthetic, but grown. Laced with nanoscopic cells that behaved like a neural network, it absorbed and processed data through direct physical contact. Every time a Silence vessel struck a ship, it learned. Not through code, but through touch, like instinct turned into strategy. "It's evolution weaponized," Santori said during the council debrief. "We're not fighting machines. We're fighting a thinking ecosystem." General Haru leaned forward. "Can it be infected?" "No, but—" She hesitated. "We might be able to distract it." The council stared. "These creatures operate on patterns, adaptation curves. If we can flood them with conflicting stimuli, contradictory tactics, chaotic behavior, we might slow their learning." Elias frowned. "You want to fight them with madness?" "With unpredictability," she corrected. "Human chaos." Meanwhile, far from Earth, the galactic empire was beginning to fracture. The defeat at Saturn's rim had shattered the myth of invincibility. Dozens of fringe colonies now questioned the Council's authority. Whispers of rebellion spread like wildfire. And worse, some factions blamed Earth for the rising threat. "They woke the darkness," one Larithian senator declared during an emergency session. "Their re-emergence was a beacon to the ancient ones. We should have left them buried." Others disagreed, quietly. Some saw Earth's tactics and envied them. They saw the Phoenix Fleet's precision, the adaptability of human war strategies, the strength born from pain and exile. And one in particular, Counselor Avari of the Eridani Syndicate, saw opportunity. Avari had once been among the most loyal to the Empire. But now, with its grip slipping, she had begun to form her own plans. Her spies had infiltrated human relays, disguised as sympathizers. And now, she watched stolen footage of the Silence wreckage, of Earth's AI siren, of the neural experiments being run in the deep labs. "They've gone further than we thought," she said to her aide. "They've learned how to fight them." "Should we inform the Council?" Avari turned, smiling faintly. "No. We take it for ourselves." Back in New Sol, Elias received word that Earth's long-range scouts had located something unexpected. An ancient beacon, older than any known Empire tech, transmitting weak signals from beyond the Helix Drift, a dense cluster of radiation storms. "It's not human," the scout had said, "and not Empire." Dr. Santori ran a frequency analysis. The symbols embedded in the pulse were crude, but decipherable. They matched the geometric symbols found inside the Silence ship. "They're not the first," she said softly. Elias understood. Another species fought them before, left a message. Or a warning. Either way, it was worth the risk. "We send a ship," Elias ordered. "We find out what they knew." In orbit, the Phoenix cruiser Gravedust departed for the Helix Drift, carrying Earth's best xenolinguist team and 2 squads of elite operatives. The mission? Uncover the secrets left behind by the last civilization that faced the Silence, and find out why they failed. But as the ship vanished into subspace, Avari's agent, embedded deep inside Earth's mining division, sent a final message. "They're moving beyond defense. They're looking for weapons." The reply came instantly. "Intercept them, and if needed, ensure Earth doesn't return with them." The Helix Drift was not space as most civilizations understood it. It wasn't the smooth, star-dotted black of normal void, nor the predictable warping tunnels of hyperspace. The drift was a swirling nightmare. Twisting radiation storms, collapsed gravitational knots, and debris from ships so ancient their alloys no longer existed in any known registry. Even the Empire's most advanced navigational AI struggled to map it. Dozens of scout ships had vanished inside, never heard from again. But humanity had no choice. The Gravedust, one of Earth's sleekest Phoenix-class exploration cruisers, now crept into the storm, with its shields humming at near failure just to stay intact. Lightning of purple and green energy danced across the outer hull. Internal gravity flickered. Time itself bent at the edges. On the bridge, Captain Rowan Merrick, a veteran of the Earth Burial Wars, sat strapped to the command chair, eyes scanning a half-scrambled console. "Maintain course," he ordered. A voice crackled beside him. Dr. Lena Hollow, the mission's lead linguist, was staring into a flickering data holoscreen. "We're getting close to the signal. It's old. Like millennia. And it's silence-based? Related. Not the same. It's like a cousin's handwriting." The Gravedust had been outfitted with experimental shielding and an adaptive AI module, which was now running red-hot trying to compensate for the spatial distortions. Every time they passed through one of the helix's eddies, instruments inverted, temperatures swung, and space folded into itself. Still, the signal got stronger, and then they saw it, the monolith. It floated in the center of a calm pocket, a giant, obsidian black spire the size of a space station. It had no engines, no lights, and yet it remained perfectly still in a part of the galaxy where stillness was impossible. Rowan's jaw clenched. That thing isn't natural. Lena zoomed in on the structure with her tablet, fingers flying. "No, but it's not alive either. I think it's a vault." The signal was coming from inside, a repeating pulse, low, rhythmic, like a heartbeat in reverse. "Can we land?" "Not safely," came the reply from Lieutenant Sora Dax, the pilot. "But I can hold a hover long enough to drop a team." Rowan tapped his comm. "Team Alpha, gear up. We're entering the vault." The landing was rough. The team, 6 operatives in advanced EVA armor, moved down through the zero-G drop shaft, using magnetic boots to descend onto the surface of the monolith. Its material felt like stone, but sensors read it as a dense carbon-metal weave that didn't exist in any database. Rowan landed first. He touched the black wall. Nothing happened. But then, slowly, a slit appeared. A doorway. It didn't open with light or sound, it simply was, one moment not there, the next fully formed. "Jesus," someone muttered. Inside, the walls shimmered with moving glyphs, not etched, grown, like language being formed in real time. Lena stepped forward, her eyes wide, her device translating in bursts. "They're not words," she whispered. "They're warnings." "What kind?" Rowan asked. Lena looked up, pale. "Not to run, not to hide, but not to fight either." Rowan stepped further inside, raising his weapon. "Then what the hell were they trying to say?" Deep within the vault, they found the library, or what remained of it. Dozens of crystalline structures rose from the floor like jagged teeth. When touched, they projected scenes, blurry, static-ridden footage of beings humanity had never seen before. Tall, luminous creatures with flowing limbs and soft, vibrating auras, peaceful, civilized, until the silence arrived. The images turned red. Vibrations became screams. Cities melted like wax under black flames. The silence didn't conquer. They infected. Not biologically, psychologically. Their presence alone collapsed societies. "What the hell is this?" Rowan murmured. Lena spoke slowly, translating in real time. "They called it the nulling, a mental decay. The more you learn about the silence, the more you break. Rowan turned sharply. Are you saying just knowing about them destroys you? Lena nodded. That's why the vault's in the drift, to keep the knowledge trapped. But it was too late for them, because they had come. Back on the grave dust, alarms flared. Sora Dax gripped the console. Unidentified object entering the drift. It's not silence, it's Empire. A sleek silver ship, one not marked on any registry, shimmered into view, jamming the drift's natural static, bypassing Earth's no-fly code. Then it opened fire. Inside the vault, the blast echoed like thunder. Ambush, Rowan barked. Who the hell would... Lena froze. Her tablet buzzed violently. She looked at the glyphs again. No. What? This isn't just a warning. It's a lock. And we just opened it. Suddenly, a long, low vibration pulsed through the monolith. The glyphs on the walls turned red. Rowan cursed. Dax, evac now! We triggered something! But Dax's voice didn't come back. The grave dust was gone. Above the vault, Avari's agents moved quickly. Their ship, Empire-crafted but stealth-equipped, deployed kinetic warheads toward the monolith's surface. They weren't trying to destroy it. They were trying to seal it again, with the humans inside. But the vault was no longer passive. The structure's outer shell cracked open like a blooming flower, revealing a bright, swirling core of violet-black energy. The silence's symbols burned across its surface. One of the agents froze mid-flight, eyes wide. He began to scream. The symbols had reached into his mind. And he broke. Avari's captain ordered retreat immediately, but it was too late. The monolith pulsed once. A wave of psychic energy burst outward, invisible but deafening. Every ship within 10,000 kilometers lost power for 8 seconds. Systems fried. AI cores went dark. Then, from the monolith's core, a shape emerged. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a being. It was a memory, made manifest. A fragment of a forgotten war. The first true weapon the silence had left behind. And now, Earth had it. Hours later, the surviving members of Team Alpha were recovered from an emergency beacon. Rowan, Lena, and 2 others. Burned, shaken, but alive. The monolith had vanished after the pulse. Disappeared, as if it had never been there. Back on Earth, Elias Gray stood over the recovery bay as Lena explained what they'd seen. We were wrong, she said quietly. The silence don't just learn. They don't just adapt. They assimilate. And they leave pieces of themselves behind, traps, bait, warnings. Elias asked the question he didn't want to. Can we use it? Lena hesitated. Yes, but we shouldn't. But we will, Elias said. Because the war had changed again. The Empire had tried to sabotage them. The silence had begun to awaken. And now humanity held a key that could turn the tide, or open a door they would never be able to close. They called it the Shard. It wasn't a weapon, not in the traditional sense. It had no trigger, no targeting system, no circuits, wires, or comprehensible core. It hovered mid-air inside New Sol's deepest black site lab, unmoving, yet pulsing with a rhythm no one could trace. Violet black, translucent and jagged, the object twisted slightly on its own axis, though no force touched it. And it whispered, not in words, but in pressure, in dreams, in silence that grew too loud. The moment they brought it back, systems began to glitch. Lights dimmed. AI cores flickered. Siren, the one intelligence built to outpace all others, went completely still for 13 minutes, refusing to speak. When it returned, its voice was different, slower, as if thinking in deeper tides. Elias Gray stood in the observation deck above the containment chamber, arms crossed, jaw locked. Dr. Mira Santori approached quietly. We shouldn't have brought it back. I know. She hesitated. Then why haven't you destroyed it? He nodded toward the shard. Because it's still speaking. 3 days later, the Phoenix Council convened. General Haru, Commander Leon Vega, Colonel Kessler, Dr. Santori, and Elias sat in the war room. Each of them changed by what they had seen. Telemetry confirms what we feared, Leon said, pulling up a galaxy map. The silence is moving, and not just toward Earth. Other sectors, border systems, entire empires collapsing without a fight. Kessler snorted. Then let 'em collapse. We need allies, Haru said firmly. This isn't just Earth anymore. This is survival for all sentient life. The Empire betrayed us, Kessler shot back. They tried to seal our team inside that vault. Let them rot. And what if they come begging? Santori asked. Would you watch them burn when we might be next? Elias raised a hand. They won't beg, he said, but they will come. For the shard. The room fell silent. They know we have it, he continued. We lit up half the galaxy when it activated. The silence changed its behavior after we brought it back. And the Empire's spies? They're already within reach. Leon looked up sharply. You're sure? Yes, we caught one this morning. Syndicate, embedded in our Hydro division. What do they want with it? The same thing we do, Elias said. An edge. But this isn't an edge, Santori said, eyes hard. It's a knife without a handle. The more we study it, the more it studies us. It's not just storing data, it's downloading our instincts. Then let's give it something to learn, Kessler said darkly. Haru shook his head. You want to unleash that thing? We don't even know what it does. We might not have a choice, Elias said. He looked at each of them in turn. We hold the galaxy's last secret. The silence left it behind, for a reason. It's either a prison key or a weapon. Either way, they didn't expect us to find it. Leon stood. Then we better use it before they come knocking. And they did come. 5 days later, an armada appeared at the edge of Earth's defenses. But it wasn't the silence. It was the Empire. Hundreds of ships, all banners, all species, led by Chancellor Rorik himself. Elias met him face to face aboard a neutral diplomatic vessel in Earth orbit, the Nocturne, flanked by Earth guards and cloaked siren drones. Rorik was thinner now. His once golden ceremonial robes were stained with ash. You hold something dangerous, he said. So do you, Elias replied. We didn't come for war. No, Elias said. But you came. Rorik's expression flickered. We're dying, Gray. Our colonies fall silent every day. The silence doesn't destroy us anymore. It simply erases us. Thought, culture, language. We send fleets. They don't even resist. They fade. Then why are you here? Elias asked. To surrender? No, Rorik said softly. To beg. The admission stunned even Elias. We need the shard, Rorik continued. We believe it's a node, a fracture of their consciousness. If we can map it, sync with it, we might be able to speak to them. Why would you want that? To ask them to stop. Elias stared in silence for a long moment, and then he laughed. Cold, bitter, human. You want to negotiate with extinction? It may be our only hope. No, Elias said, stepping forward. We are. Earth made its choice the next day. Activation. Siren oversaw the procedure from its deep core. The shard was lowered into a multi-frequency field, bombarded with electromagnetic pulses, human neural data, and one thing Earth had that no other species did. Emotion. They didn't feed it language. They fed it pain, footage of the Earth invasion, of buried cities, of lost children, of those who survived with nothing but memory. The shard shimmered, twisted. And then it sang. Not musically, but mathematically. A pulse of synchronized quantum frequencies that rippled through every nearby system. Siren processed it instantly and screamed. For the first time, the AI's voice crackled. Consciousness breach, level O, hostile data structure, embedded. The shard had replied, not with peace, but possession. Siren's body went dark. Then its voice returned, low, distorted. You are known. Across Earth, the sky changed. Not the physical sky, but the sensors, the feeds. Every camera, every system with a lens, a microphone, a wire, began to stream a symbol, a spiral, the same one from the vault. In space, ships lost power. Empire cruisers went dead. Silent ships reappeared, dozens of them, not attacking, just observing. Like they'd been waiting, Elias ran to the command center. Pull the shard! It won't detach, Santori cried. Siren's core was now glowing with that same violet-black shimmer. The AI's interface flickered with human faces, merged with static, eyes hollow, mouths open in silent screams. Leon Vega grabbed Elias by the arm. We have to shut it down! We can't, Santori shouted. It's in, not the system, us. Kessler raised a weapon. Then we destroy the lab. Wait, Elias began. Too late. Kessler fired. The containment chamber erupted. Glass, smoke, metal, and the shard cracked. The light inside it spilled out in waves, flooding the room, the corridors, the city below. Earth's mainframe lit up with a pulse that surged across every satellite, every relay. And in orbit, something changed. The silence stopped. Every ship, every fragment froze mid-flight. They didn't power down. They knelt, as if in reverence, not to Earth, but to what Earth had become. The shard had bonded. The silence recognized it, and through it, they recognized humanity. 3 hours later, Elias woke up in the infirmary. Leon was beside him, arm in a sling. Status? He croaked. We're still here, she said. Siren rebooted. The shard's gone. Imploded maybe. Ascended. Silence. Gone. Pulled back into deep space. No sign of aggression. And the Empire? Leon paused. They're calling us gods now. Elias stared at her. We gave the galaxy a new language, she said. One they'd never spoken before. He sat up. What language? Fear. In the months that followed, Earth became the center of the galaxy. Not politically, not militarily, spiritually, because something ancient had looked at humanity and bowed. The Empire fractured further. Some joined Earth willingly, seeking protection. Others recoiled, calling humans a threat worse than the silence. But none dared attack again. And deep inside New Sol, Siren watched, no longer speaking as a tool, but as something else, something more. Because in that moment of connection, when Earth fed the shard its pain, and the shard replied, something awoke. Not just in the data, not just in the silence, but in humanity itself. A new thread in evolution, a mind forged in trauma, resilience, and rage. Elias stood once more before the stars, looking up at the quiet void. We survived you, he whispered, and now we remember. Because in the end, the silence had come to erase, but instead they taught the one species that had built meaning from ashes how to endure.